fast warming up to the idea of becoming a startup nation. Aspiring entrepreneurs are doing all that they can to help build their startup from the ground up. But there is one grey area which is stopping a good startup from becoming a great startup. The problem? Talent acquisition and hiring. The solution? It's multi-pronged. We spoke to a few experts to find out why hiring right is so important. Most of these employees, corporate employees, have left these really big companies to join startups. Why would they do this? Why would startups want them to join their companies? And more importantly, is this a trend that's here to stay?
Senior to mid-level employees are leaving big corporates because startups are offering great opportunities where they can use their skill, their corporate experience, and they can solve the problems which are often not solved by the big corporates at a scale which is smaller, but having high potential. So idea is to grow along with the company. So I feel, yes, as the economy of India is growing, this trend is going to stay.
With the corporate culture, what comes in is basically a lot of restrictions, a lot of hierarchy, and if you have a passion to do something, it's really restrictive in nature to do it in a corporate culture. And that's where a lot of people, mid and senior level people are actually going out and trying to bring out their passion and trying to build a company or a business out of that.
As a part of a corporate, you're probably, you have a small role doing a small part of a big job rather than, driving, leading, delivering something big altogether. So that opportunity is immense. And anybody with a passion, with a fire, would probably get very attracted to working in a startup. It is definitely here to stay because now, with the funding landscape, a lot of these startups are accelerating very, very fast. And hence, they are very suitable roles for corporate executives to deliver whatever they've learned in a bigger company in a fast-moving setup like a startup. So it's going to stay for long now.
When it comes to hiring the right candidate, how really do you find which candidate is most appropriate for your startup?
See, startups are very choosy in terms of hiring people. For a startup, cost of hiring a wrong guy and reward of hiring a right guy is very, very high. So basically that, they have a lot of criteria, so that makes the pool very small. And also what happens, startups are like growing very fast, so they're very dynamic and they don't have a very long horizon of people plan. So the going to campuses where people join after 6 months or 1 year does not happen for them. So that's the reason all these things kind of restrictions make very tough for a startup to hire. At the same time, for a startup, it's not about hiring the rock stars. It's about hiring the people who are relevant.
If you are able to bring about the vision the founder has and the long-term, the goals that you have chalked out, if you are transparent about it completely, and if you are able to excite the executive, I think the emolument should not be a bigger issue.
Let's talk about hiring apart from those inner circle of people you had in the beginning. When really should you start going a step above that and move away from the first 5 or 10 people you already had with your organization?
So startups should start hiring as soon as possible. When I say as soon as possible, means as soon as they can afford, as soon as they're able to lay the right foundation, and as soon as they are able to get right candidates. So that is the thing. But at the same time, I strongly feel that you should spend enough time in building the foundation. See, as Common Floor, we were like 20 people team for 4 years, and in the last 2 years, we have grown from 20 people to 800 people. So I'm saying that it's absolutely fine to not to hire people. It's very, very risky if you hire people too fast. But yes, if you crack the model, if you understand what you want, what kind of people you want to hire, then scaling up should not be a challenge. So I would say that once you crack your business model, once you can afford people, once you have access to the right set of talent, you should start hiring.
What we have done is we have set up certain inflection points that we believe in, and once we validate those points, we tend to grow from there. So it gives you a platform where you know exactly what you are doing, and it gives you a point where you know exactly how much you need to scale up now. And that's what most of the startups, typically founding member teams do, that they look for those inflection points where you would actually go up, both in terms of scaling up in the team and going all out in the market and acquiring more and more clients.
I have a slightly different view also here. It's like, you building your initial pillars, right? I think strategically you need to have the right people for the right function, I think from the beginning. So that what you just now said about, I would have hired 1 year earlier. So I mean, it depends. If the milestones are actually, set at a longer duration, but then otherwise, you should be able to hire the right person at the, beginning itself.
Right now, you've presented a really rosy picture. So what exactly, if a person is joining a startup afresh, what exactly should they expect from the startup, and what kind of challenges should they know about?
Forget about having a life. You'd probably be working 6 days a week, sometimes even 7 days a week, 10, 12 hours, pretty normal. There's a lot of work going on, product being shipped left, right, and center. The energy is high, a lot of yelling happening left, right, and center. So if you've got ego problems with somebody, you have to really park it. You think that you want to go out there in the night and party? Sorry, not happening, because you've got a product to ship. So it's definitely very intense, and not as rosy as what we said just a while back. But at the same time, it's a fantastic experience as when it comes to learning as well as growing.
First of all, the risk associated with a startup are huge. So if a person is not willing to take risk, then startups are not for that person, right? So once you take that risk and take that plunge, then you have to go through that rigor of every day you are spending, you are thinking, you are innovating all the time, and it's really difficult in the time frame that we are talking about. So say 14 hours in a day you are working, and then you have to go back and again think about what next do I do which will bring me more revenue, or which will make my product go and reach that next level.
I would say that startups offer a lot of challenges, but again, you can see that them as a challenges or as an opportunity. So startups offer flat culture, flat structure, basically, where you are actually exposed. Your strengths are exposed and your weaknesses are exposed. So if you're doing anything good or bad, it will be known. And that is kind of opportunity, at the same time a challenge for few people. And you are accountable, you are responsible, and yes, you get to kind of learn a lot. So basically, you get to stretch yourself. So and then there's a lot of peer pressure in startups. So as a processes, startup offer a lot of flexibility that you can come anytime, you can leave anytime. We do Friday at 5 every Friday, so we kind of acknowledge people, we give pat on the back and all that. But then startups are like high performing machines, where if you are not the right part, that you are probably going to be misfit. So basically, yes, if you really want to test out that are you for startup or not, or build for startup or not, please work for one startup, you'll get to know.
And that's not all. Corporate employees usually latch onto these startups for the bigger challenges that they offer. For example, a typical early stage startup may have fewer than 5 members in its core team. What does this mean? Each person is a one-person army. So corporate employees have higher skills to hold on. Huge offices, a pick-up and drop service, salary allowances, subsidized food, and most of all, fixed work timings throughout the week. Welcome to the swanky lifestyle led by a corporate employee in India. This would be the ideal life to lead for most Indians, despite the long hours and varied shifts. But for these corporate honchos, it simply was not good enough. They quit their high-flying corporate careers to make a move that few would have picked in the era gone by. They joined startups. Take Manu MR for instance. He used to work with both Yahoo as a principal engineer and with Microsoft for 3 years as a senior engineer. His yearly job perks ranged from medical coverage to a cost-covered children's daycare center to an all-expense-paid car leasing facility and even fixed vacations. But to him, something was still missing. So he quit to join NowFloats, a startup that helps take SMEs online.
Corporates definitely give you technically challenging work, but here you get end-to-end ownership of things, right? So the excitement is in doing things end-to-end. So here I do coding, I do talk with customers, I do partner management. So all the problems are before you, right? It's not like you can run away from a problem here.
And he's not the only one. Experts say that there is an increasingly growing pool of talent from mid and senior level corporate professionals who are taking the plunge. They are leaving their cushy, comfortable jobs to make their way from the ground up at a startup. So what really is helping push this trend in India?
If you look at the IT industry in India, it's a $100 billion industry today. Most of it has come from services. But the next 100 billion will come from products, IP, platform. That is where the industry has to evolve. But the large companies are not investing in innovation. So people who have worked in the industry for 15 years, 20 years, Since they have the ecosystem today, they want to try out their ideas. So a lot of middle level managers, senior managers working in the industry for long are coming out of the industry, trying out the ideas, and the ecosystem is helping them.
Meenal Gupta is another example of a senior level corporate employee quitting only to make it big at a startup. And for more reasons than one. Both in the corporate world and in that of startups, women usually find it tough to beat the odds. But Meenal did just that. And how? A mother of two, Meenal used to head South sales at Yahoo and managed sales at InMobi for East European markets. After 8 years of ruling the corporate sales roost, she decided to call it quits. Instead, she chose to join mobile marketing solution startup ZipDial. She says a career at a startup is something she would pick any day, especially for the flexibility it provides.
I'm a mother of two, so the biggest advantage it gives me the flexibility, the culture here, which is very dynamic, and people understand. They know our working style, and you can always tell them that, you know, sometimes you want to leave early, you want to come late, whatever. You can work at your conditions, and what all is bothered in ZipDial is that you need to work. What time you're working, when you're working, how you're working, it's entirely up to you. So I think that makes a life much easier for me, at least for me, you know, for a mother.
But her road to joining the startup was far from easy. Most corporate employees joining these startups also have to battle it out when it comes to gaining acceptance from society at large, and particularly their families. The most common reason they cite for this is a lack of awareness about startups and startup culture, and also a general disregard for anything that is not an MNC. Meenal's case was also no different.
Challenges like, I'll tell you very frankly, my parents asked me, what, you're leaving Yahoo? Then I joined InMobi. They didn't even know what is InMobi. After InMobi, I told them I am joining ZipDial. ZipDial, okay, because I know my mother still tells some of my, you know, relatives that she works with Yahoo, because they really can't relate with this startup culture and all. But yeah, that's the biggest thing. You have to really make them understand, you know, how the companies, what we do, and why we left a bigger company and why we are working, the advantages.
On the flip side, startups are cashing in on this trend. Senior level hires from bigger, well-established companies were far and in between for most of these startups until about a year ago. One of the major reasons being the limited budgets that startups tend to work on. The shift that senior and mid-level employees are now making is one that they welcome with open arms.
You need people who worked in the industry, who have seen technology changes, who have seen the scaling up game. That is very important, because when you start small, when you want to become big, that experience helps you to become big. If you don't have that experience, you'll not be able to understand the nuances of scaling up and becoming big. So all these guys, veterans who worked in the industry for long, understand the technology change, understand the game of scaling up, and also they have to connect with the global markets. And that is very important for a startup, because most of your product will be sold to the Western world.
And why not? Budget is now no longer a constraint for these startups, thanks to the pay cuts that these corporate employees are willing to take for a job far more challenging. Take Satish Vatekar, for instance. Having previously worked with corporates for more than a decade, he took more than a 33% pay cut from IBM just to follow his dream and build something more meaningful from scratch at a startup. He believes that while this was a highly risky move, it is something that will reap equally high rewards.
Much smaller company when it's a startup, right? So you're working with some 500 people. It goes down to 5 people. You know everything about what's happening. You get to play a lot more part in driving where the company is going. So you want to do something different, right? So an itch is there to do something different. That is one. Second thing is that what is it that you can look forward to, right? So if it works well, you put your heart into it. Any company you work with, you have to work hard. There's no way out of it. But in a startup, the returns may be a lot more. If it works, a lot more.
And that's not all. Corporate employees are really looking towards the bigger challenges that these startups offer. For example, a typical early stage startup has about 5 or lesser number of members in its founding team, which means every person is a one-person army, and your previous experience or qualifications will do little to get you ahead in your career here. Besides this, while joining or starting up is indeed high risk, most bet on the bigger payoffs they can receive. Some of the most disruptive tech companies of the world began as startups, whether it is an Uber, a WhatsApp, or a Facebook. The situation is no different in India, where a Flipkart or Myntra, a Little Eye Labs, or a startup like SignEasy are making its mark felt both in India and the world. Many go ahead and join these startups in India just for a chance to crack real-world problems firsthand and reap in the rewards.
People are now seeing scale, right? Not only they are seeing scale, the future looks bright, right? For scale is there, future is bright, and there is growth. And also what it comes with it is freedom, right? It's a new age company. You can create something. It's not about maintaining something. Now you can create something. Most of these new age companies give you, one is apart from salary, they get stock options, right? For exit does definitely provide, and the visibility of exit, the chances of that is very high. Means I think it makes sense for people to take that call. For they see big opportunity, they see growth. Combined with this, freedom in the new age companies, so it's exciting.
To be sure, working for a startup is definitely not for the faint of heart. But going by the looks of it, this trend is here to stay. We'll slip into a short break, more on the other side.